You're listening to Just Ask Malia with Malia Horde from the Malia Realty Group, recorded at Bourbon Barrel Podcasting Studios.
Hey everybody, it's Malia Horde with Just Ask Malia podcast, and today we are sitting around the bourbon table ready to start our next collaborative conversation with two fine gentlemen that I call friends as well as trusted allied partners. I have Jim Chandler and Randy Ward with Chandler Home Inspection here to talk about the home inspection process. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello, Malia.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you coming in and having this conversation with me. I know we have lots of them all the time, and that both personally and professionally. So I'm excited to share your story and tell everybody about you and have some helpful information for our community and friends and family that are listening.
Sure. Great. Thank you.
So as you know, this collaborative conversation came about because through the real estate, we realized how essential great businesses are in people to building our community. And I think Lexington and the Bluegrass area is the best place to live in America, even though I'm from Jersey. And, and I believe it's so important to tell our local and future residents about people like you and let them know you and get to know you, and so that they view you as a trusted resource. And I think behind every great business is a really great story that most people don't get to hear about. And I like to peel back that onion and share how you got where you are and why you got where you are. So, Jim, you are the man behind all of this with your partner in crime, Randy. Tell me, how did you start this? What's your story with Chandler Home Inspection?
Well, I was a builder all my life. My dad was a builder and remodeler before me. In 2007, I had been building a lot of houses and selling them to people that couldn't afford them. And my building partner at the time was doing the same thing. And I went to him and told him we just started a house. And I said, this is going to be my last house. After all these years, I can see this bubble about to burst. And, God just blessed me. I actually came over to Lexington. I'm from Danville originally. But I came over to Lexington to APAS Weichel School. I thought I'd get my real estate license. I'd sold every house I'd ever built.
You and about 5,000 people, right?
Yeah. So I go in there, and they asked me what I did for a living, and I told them I'd been a builder all my life. And they said, well, why don't you get a home inspection license? And I said, well, what? I didn't even know. They had just, in 2006 is when it passed the Kentucky legislature creating the license.
So it's fairly new.
Oh, yeah. So I signed up and took my 64 hours of classroom, did my due diligence there, and took my state test and passed it. And here we are. Been a home inspector ever since.
Okay, so let me get this right. In 2006, Kentucky enacted the home inspector license. In 2007, you were still selling homes because you have a lineage of being a builder and father being a builder. And your last home was actually built in 2007. So you had that fine magic crystal ball to say, 2008, everything's going to fall through the bottom.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. Hindsight's 2022, right? Yeah. And then you went to APAS Weichel. That's where I got my real estate license as well as my boys. And you got your home inspector license.
Yeah.
Wow. So were you like a guinea pig? At that time, how many home inspectors had been through school? Do you know that?
My original license number, and we call it our heritage number because the state has given us a new licensing code.
Yep, same here. I think through Bevan.
My original number was 2354. So I was the 354th person licensed in the state of Kentucky.
Okay, so the two doesn't. Okay, wow, fascinating. Okay, so you started Chandler Home Inspection. How did Randy get involved?
Well, Randy's been a friend, and actually I'd met Randy inspecting his house for another client in Danville. And we got to know one another, and I told Randy one day, I said, you'd make a good inspector because you're a builder and you're in the building material sales into the business, and you would make a good inspector. And he must have taking it to heart because he went on to came up here to APAS Weichel and took the classes. Couldn't decide whether he wanted to go into it full time, even though I was nagging him on a regular basis.
Yeah, over about a 2-year period, every time I saw Jim, he wanted me to get my license. Kept thinking about it, and finally I did. And kind of like him, when I went to APAS Weichel, I wasn't sure if I was going to go left to real estate or right to home inspection. But I went to home inspection because I had a background in it, and got my license. And at that time, it was in 2013. I was going to start my own business, and it's going to be 2020 inspections. And my wife got breast cancer.
Oh,
So she's doing great now. But at that time, she decided I need to get with a company that had insurance and not be on my own. So I didn't really get into the business yet of home inspections. So fast forward about 1.5 years, Jim called me. Still had my license, kept it up, and he was busy and he wanted to slow down a little bit and just wanted me to pick up some inspections for him in the afternoons and here and there.
Oh, so you teased him, Jim, right? Just kind of put that little bait out there. Here's a cherry.
Let's see if money can change his mind.
Yeah.
So anyway, I started doing them after work. I was still in material sales, and it wasn't long before it was pretty obvious to me that not just financially, but I liked it better, and that I needed to be a home inspector full time. So I went full time, and me and Jim became partners, and that was about 15, I think, is when that happened.
So you got into home inspection probably about the same time I got into real estate, right? 2014, 13, taking tests and doing that.
Right.
And then you had your little breast cancer scare. We had our cancer scare as well. So, wow, we're more alike than I realized.
But it's been a lot of fun. The thing I like about it is something different every day. It might be an $80,000 home one day and $800,000 the next day. So it's something different every day.
Well, and I like to tell people that the home inspection process is where the deal falls apart. It's not your job to come in and find everything that's wrong. It's more that you guys are coming into the home inspection to prepare a home manual for the client.
Correct.
Because unless they're buying a new build, there's no home warranty. There's no home manual that they actually get to tell them about the house. So you come in and you create it for them. We put it in a binder for them. We give it to them at closing, so they use that as a reference manual. We have that good, bad, and ugly that you guys always seem to find.
Right. No perfect house.
There is no perfect house, right? It's like buying a used car. Wheels are worn. You're going to have to buy new wheels.
Yeah.
Right. So with the home inspection process, I tell people this is where it falls apart. So because it becomes very emotional, and you guys are really good about keeping that emotion down and presenting challenging situations in a good, clear manner. But it becomes emotional because sellers think their house is great and buyers want a great house. And usually they don't equal out so much in terms of the things that you guys find.
Correct. We go in areas that, the crawl space, they may not have been there for 3, 4, 5 years, who knows, or ever. So they don't have any idea what's going on underneath their house or in their attic. And so that's always a surprise for them because they've never been there.
Well, and I also believe that things behind the walls you don't really think about. You don't think about what's in the attic. You don't think about what's in the crawl space. You're used to the water pressure not being so great, or the hot water having to kick on after a certain point, or the cold water kicking in at a certain point. But I always tell people that with the home inspection, we want to hear the good, right? Of course, you're buying a house, you want everything to be perfect. The bad is, hey, your roof's 20 years old, it's a 30-year-old roof. And hey, there's scratches. And hey, your water heater is almost at that useful life, so you may want to kick in a kitty fund to get saving for that. The ugly is, hey, there's a hole in the roof, or hey, the HVAC doesn't work, or hey, there's a crack in the foundation.
Right.
Yeah. Or we find termite tunnels in the crawl space.
Termite, right. All those great things that you don't want to find. So tell me, what is the most challenging thing for you as the home inspector?
It's probably crawl spaces. Usually everything else is pretty straightforward. You can get to it. You can examine it closely. And crawl spaces are such a forgotten place. And most builders don't know how to build a correct crawl space, so they're going to have moisture issues or air infiltration issues. Something's going to be wrong. And that's probably the biggest challenge. When you open that door, you pray you're going to see a good film of plastic down on the floor for a vapor barrier and clean and well lit. And that's,
light switch.
Light switch.
HVAC on top of like bricks and
not have to lay in the mud and open up the furnace so you can read the label on it. You hope none of that has to happen, but it usually doesn't.
Yeah, Jim's built way more than I have, but I have built some houses. And way back when you did a crawl space, if you left the ground level when you left the job, we thought that was good. It's level. That's what you want. But we didn't go back 5 years later when the level started tilting towards the house. So therefore, there's where you start getting some moisture issues because the ground's tilted towards the house. Now, if we built today, it would be a nice hill going away from the house. But we didn't do that back then. And then the other thing we didn't do was vapor barriers or 6 mil plastic. We might have put gravel in, but very rarely did you do plastic back in them days. And now you have to have that in every house. It's very important, not just for water vapor, but also for things like radon gas.
Well, let's talk about being a home inspector because we kind of touched about it, but I think we need to get a little bit deep because like real estate agents, there's probably a dime a dozen, and I think there's a lot of home inspectors out there as well. I'm seeing people go to Yelp and looking at the reviews. I know our reviews are extremely instrumental in giving validity to our customer care and providing a great experience for our clients. But to be a home inspector, you guys both come from a building background, which I feel gives an extra additive to people and to clients to make them understand the process. And you're very good about breaking that down into like 101, house knowledge for a new homeowner or even a seasoned homeowner. But what does it take to be a home inspector? You talked a little bit about classes.
Yeah. You have to go to an approved school, and you can go online to Kentucky Board of Home Inspectors and check it out and see what schools are approved to teach home inspection in the state of Kentucky. You're required to do 64 classroom hours in that school, and some of that will be you'll be taken out, to a live house or whatever to go through it for a certain percentage of those hours. Then you pass usually a school test, and then you can take the state test, which is about 250 questions, and that's where a lot of people fall by the wayside.
So it's very similar to the real estate exam, right? School test and the state test. Now, you are being a little bit very coy and humble right here, Jim Chandler, because my understanding is when I first met you, you were on the state board of home inspectors, and I heard you rolled off, and I heard you just rolled back on. Tell us about that. That's a big kudos.
I was very surprised in July when I got a call from the governor's office, and they asked me if I'd be willing to serve again. I served 2 terms under Steve Beshear, under Andy Beshear's dad. He first appointed me in October of 11, and reappointed me again in 2013, and in 2015, the board elected me as chairman.
Oh, great.
And,
congratulations.
So I'm back on the board for another term. It's set up a little bit differently. Governor Bevin rearranged the board, reduced its size from 9 members down to 3, and now we've upped it to 5. 3 just wasn't enough to get all the work done, and we've upped it to 5. And it's working out smooth. If we could ever meet live, I'm tired of these Zoom meetings.
I think there's something very powerful about a face-to-face, and I appreciate you guys sitting here at the bourbon table with me to do that because I'm very relational and love that contact.
Absolutely. I don't know what people that haven't been able to get out during this COVID deal have done. I would be pulling my hair out.
Right.
I'm a people person, and I think that's part of what you need to be to do this job correctly.
Well, and I think there's a lot of anything dealing with real estate, because I believe real estate is one of the biggest financial assets people have. But forming those relationships and gaining that trust of the clients, with that asset and making sure that you always have their back is so crucial. I think you're an integral part of that as well. I've watched you guys with clients just take that fear out of them and just give them a point of logic of, hey, stuff's going to happen. This is how you fix it, or this is how you get around fixing it, or this is what you need to do.
That's why we like to have our clients come to the inspection. Mm-hmm. Even if you can't work it out to be there, usually an average inspection is between 2 and 3 hours. And if you can't be there for the whole thing, which you're welcome to be, if we're doing the inspection, you're welcome to be there for the whole thing. If you can come for the last half hour, 45 minutes, and let us give you a walk through the house. Let us show you where the main water shutoff is in case there's an emergency. Of course, there's going to be pictures of this in your report, but a picture is one thing, but laying your hand on it is another.
Well, and I think that's been really instrumental as well. I've watched clients, and we always offer, we give them a list of home inspectors. And obviously they choose the home inspector. You guys are one of our allied trusted home inspectors off of that list. So thank you for that. And that comes at the recommendation of our clients, right? So right. You guys have made the list because of our clients. And we always tell them it's going to be 2 to 3 hours. You're welcome to follow these guys around the house and learn about it. And we encourage the homeowners to do that so that they know what is going on in the house, because a lot of these people don't know. I mean, I've learned so much from you guys. It's been amazing.
It's very important, in my opinion, that they be there, because a picture can say something to one person and mean something to somebody else, regardless of our explanation. But when you can show it to them, let them touch it, tell them what it's about, it's so much better.
Well, and you guys check the electrical, you check the plumbing, you check the HVAC units, you check the windows, you check the roof, you check the foundation, plumbing, appliances.
The attic structure, the floor structures, the wall coverings, the windows, the countertops. I mean, everything from the top of the roof down.
Okay, what are the things that you don't check? Cabinets that are filled, attic spaces that are blocked.
Technically, we're not insect inspectors.
Correct.
If we see activity or twos, we may mention it, but we're not there for termites. We're not even allowed to say the word, so we're not there for that. We're really not there for mold or mildew or
environmental issues. We're not there to do.
But you do test for radon as an add-on.
Test for radon, yes. So we might mention that there's moisture here. You're not going to get any kind of organic growth without moisture. So we'll mention the moisture, but we can't call anything mold because we're not mold inspectors.
I always tell my clients, I give them this analogy, and maybe you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. The home inspector is like the general doctor. You're going into the doctor for an annual checkup, or you're going in because you have some ache and pains and you're not quite sure what's going on. And the general doctor comes in and does a checkup and assesses you and says, you know what? You got a little bit of a little unusual beat to your heart. It could be a series of different things. Everything else is checking out well across the charts and the ranges that you need, but your heart's got a little bit of a murmur. I recommend you to go see the specialist for the heart doctor.
Right.
So with your home inspection, if there's something that falls out of range from the HVAC or with the electric panel or the water pressure, you point that out to say, hey guys, there's something unusual. It doesn't fit the criteria of the standard ranges. I recommend you bring in a licensed electrician. I recommend you bring in a licensed HVAC guy, which is the specialist.
Correct.
Right?
Exactly.
And then that's what we do. And then we have additional inspections to make sure nothing's wrong with that, and we take it from there. Is that a good, simple analogy for a first-time home buyer?
Very well done. Yeah.
We really are just a visual inspection only. So we don't break a lot of things down in real hard depth. I mean, we'll test the temperature coming out of the vents to make sure it's in the proper range. We will take the furnace cover off, because technically we have to do that to find the date on it. But we're not heat and air men. We don't keep pressure gauges and things like that. But so we test that it's in the proper range it's supposed to be, age it, and do things like that. Same with the electrical panel. We're not electricians. We pull the panel cover off, and there's certain things we look for and issues in the panel. But we don't dig into it as hard as an electrician would.
Well, and I have found you guys to be really instrumental with new builds. A lot of people don't think that they need a home inspection when it's new construction. And I think it was actually you guys that taught me that it's a really good idea to get a home inspection with a new build. And that's helped alleviate a painful expense for some of our clients, because when you're building, right, your builder's basically your general contractor, and then he subs out the plumbing, and he subs out the electric, and he subs out the countertops, and he subs out the plumbing. And all these guys are working to the best of their ability, but they have employees just as much as we have employees. And sometimes things just go wrong, human error. And you guys have caught many things with a new build that I know my clients are extremely grateful.
I've done many dozens of new houses, new builds in my career, and I haven't written up a perfect house yet.
So tell me, if someone's buying a new build, what are some of the things they should look for besides hiring a home inspector to do it before, as soon as the certificate of occupancy is
Make
issued?
sure the yard is graded correctly, that the water is going to flow away from the foundation of the home. The driveway is to be included in that. Make sure the drive isn't sending water toward the house or garage. Make sure the downspouts, the gutter downspouts, have extensions and aren't just pouring the water from the roof around your foundation.
Or across your front walkway.
Yeah, or across the walkway.
Remember that one?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. As far
Attic
as
space, we've looked at ductwork. We found issues with ductwork that just got unnoticed,
Right.
didn't
I
get
think
connected
with
right.
new construction, you can kind of tell if the quality's there by the way the place looks.
Yeah.
And, if we see that it's half done or dirty, things like that, then we know we better be ready to look for some stuff, because it just seems like they're not taking care of that property.
Mm-hmm.
Had a friend of mine call me, and it wasn't a formal inspection, but she knew what I did for a living. And she had bought a brand new house, and it was now about 6 months old. And this was a few years ago. And she said, "I want you to come over and look at this, Jim. There's an issue somewhere. I feel a breeze when I'm in my foyer. Cold weather, hot weather, feel a breeze in there." So I go over and I look, and I see a heat register in the foyer, which is supposed to be near the front door. And I thought, well, I don't know what's wrong here. And then it had a crawl space. I went into the crawl space, and someone had cut for the register and laid the register in place, but there was no ductwork to it. It hadn't just fallen out. It was never installed. It was just a hole in the floor.
Wow.
On a brand new house.
Wow. I mean, just how many times do we just forget to do something?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Honest mistake, I'm sure. Nobody, that wasn't going to save the heating air man a ton of money by leaving one piece of duct out. But it certainly had not been done, and on a brand new house. So who can figure?
Yep. One weird thing we catch on all houses really is the microwave not venting properly. So
Tell me about that.
Well, a lot of microwaves now you can either have vented or non-vented.
Range vents.
Well, the vents on the microwave for the ranges, you have to move the ductwork yourself and set it up for whichever one you're doing. And a lot of people just buy it, put it up above the range, and never look at any of that. And so what happens is when the fan comes on, it just blows out the top underneath the cabinet. It doesn't come back into the room like it's supposed to. But we see that a lot because somebody goes out and just, well, that's a good-looking microwave. I want that. And they take it home. They put it in. They never read the paperwork. So when we find that, they have to pull it back out and adjust the vents properly.
Tell me what was the most unusual thing you've seen in a house? I know that's a wild card because of the years of experience that you've been doing this.
Oh, I could write a book. Oh gosh, this has happened more than a dozen times in my career. Usually, it's on a house that has renters, and everybody has notifications several days before I show up. More than a dozen times I've had people that stay in the bed.
Oh, I
while I'm
believe
doing
it.
the
We had that
inspection.
yesterday at a showing. I couldn't believe it. In the basement. In a basement that wasn't even a bedroom.
Yeah.
They had a bed on the floor. You can't make it up.
Yeah. Well, what we've done, and it's been several months since the last one of those occurred to me, and I'm just going to refuse to enter. If they're going to stay in the bed, I'm not going to go into that room, and I'll write it in the report that's why I was denied access to that room. We have to watch for ourselves too.
Right.
Be very careful of what we do. By the way, Malia, part of our what we do to get our license is we have to go through a FBI background check, a state police background check, and then every 2 years our licenses are renewed, and we have to go through a state police background check again.
Oh, so with our real estate license, we have to do the FBI, state police, but we don't have to renew that. It's interesting. I wonder if they'll change that.
Ours isn't going to change. I know that because I'm very much in favor of that. I tell people that we have more police background checks than realtors.
I believe it. You know, I always tell people getting a home inspection is probably the best money of the entire process, to the point that unless you are buying a flip or something on the auction block through a foreclosure, you know, we highly recommend our clients doing it. And if they don't, we make them sign a release. I don't think that I've had one client not do a home inspection that wasn't flipping it or buying a foreclosure, just because we feel so strongly about that money. You guys also do pre-inspection. So, you know, for sellers that are about to put their house on the market, especially if we live there a long time. I mean, I've lived in my house 21 years, and if we sell our house, we'll get a pre-inspection, because that prevents the surprise and the emotions falling up later. And a lot of times we forget that there are things wrong with our house that we never addressed. Tell us some of the things you look for a pre-inspection.
It's the same process.
Yeah, it's basically the same process. The only difference is we may or may not write a report. We might just have, just from a cost standpoint, because a lot of people don't want necessarily pay for a full inspection if they're selling their house. So it'll definitely be a verbal report. They can write down anything they want. If they want us to do a full report, we'll do that. But as far as the process goes, it's exactly the same. There's no, we don't cut it short. We don't abbreviate. It's the same exact inspection.
I totally agree. I think doing a pre-inspection is crucial. Tell me some of the things with a homeowner, some of the things that a homeowner can do to avoid a bad inspection showing up. You know, what are some maintenance things that you highly recommend?
If you have a crawl space, please look in the crawl space. Several years ago, we had gone through several days of hard rain, and I had a scheduled inspection in Danville. And I get there, and the house is on a high spot according to the topography of the ground. And I told the guy, I said, no, I'm going to go in the crawl space last. I said, I hope it isn't wet. I've lived here 25 years. There's never been a drop of water in there.
I've heard that before.
I opened the door up, and there's 1.5 feet of water solid over the entire crawl space. And he just wasn't aware of it. And that couldn't have been the first time it ever got in there.
That's right.
But yes, we'd had like 3 days in a row of solid rain, but still. And I said, you're going to have to pump that out and get it dry before I can get in there. Because we do not go through water. You don't know if there's a live wire in it. You don't know what's going on in there. We do not get into water.
Yeah, and you guys come in contact with a lot of critters, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, just recently in Harrodsburg, I was in an attic. You'd mentioned weird things, and it had a bat infestation. So when I pulled down the ladder to go up, bat feces came down immediately. Now, at the time, I didn't know it was bats at the time, but it was really weird. It was a little bigger than mice, so it was really weird. But when I got up there, I mean, things were just coated. The heat and air unit, everything, is just absolutely coated with bat.
Well, and I would encourage residents that are, buying or selling a home to ask what they're doing. We provide a whole list of what the home inspector should be covering. But I had a client that hired a home inspector that was supposed to check the attic, took pictures, but literally came to find out after the fact, never went in the attic. And the same thing that you had, Randy, infested with bats. I mean, bat droppings, it costs thousands of dollars
it's very expensive
to clean that attic space, and it wasn't found for months to come. And
you're not allowed to kill a bat. Bats are protected.
Wow, I didn't
It
realize
costs
that.
a lot of money to get rid of bats.
Really? Is there something special about bats that they would be?
They're protected.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, they have to be trapped.
Okay, so what about raccoons? Because I just had an incident with
You
a
can
home
kill
inspector.
raccoons.
Yeah. Raccoons. I learned raccoons are a little bit like monkeys. They can get up on, a 100-foot house that's all brick and gets through a little.
They'll take vents out to get
Oh
in.
yeah, they'll use their little front paw hands, and they'll tear a roof vent up to crawl in. And the power vents, I've seen them. That big hood on a power vent, and they reach under there and pull the wire loose and crawl under it and crawl into the attic. You don't even know they're there, and until they've covered it with feces, and they love to tear up ductwork. I don't know why a raccoon likes to do that, but they love to tear ductwork all to pieces.
I'm just surprised that they don't fall through the attic. Like if they.
They're just not heavy enough to knock down drywall.
Okay.
Of course, they're easier to hear than a squirrel or something. But I was taking down the hatch of a scuttle hole going into an attic one time and turned it sideways, and raccoon feces went down my head and down my neck and down my shirt. It was a mess.
Go ahead.
Seen more snakes in attics than I have in crawl spaces.
Really? How do they? I wouldn't have thought that one. I would have thought the crawl space for sure.
Nah. Never saw a poisonous snake in an attic. I have in crawl spaces, but I've seen more snakes in general in attics than I have in crawl spaces.
So check our crawl space, check the attic.
Yeah, a vapor barrier in the crawl space, 6 mil plastic on the floor of the crawl space. If it's not there or it's torn up, it will be written up every single time.
So are you a proponent of having a vapor barrier or not? Because I've heard a
Absolutely.
little bit
Absolutely.
of controversy.
Absolutely.
I've had some homeowners that want it ripped out, and I'm like, why?
You need that plastic down. You need plastic to keep vapor from soaking up into the house and into your floor insulation. Another thing you need to do is leave us plenty of space to get to the electric panel. Leave us plenty of space to get to the attic hatch or pull downstairs, whichever it is. Leave us plenty of room to get to the crawl space. A house we walked away from a few weeks ago, it was so overgrown that we were going to literally, weeds armpit high in a snaky area of the county. And it was a warm day, and I told the gentleman, I'm not crawling through those weeds to get to that crawl hole. It isn't going to happen. Clean that out thoroughly, and I'll go down there. So we had to go back a week or so later.
I think we all try to be sympathetic to people's needs and circumstances and stuff, but sometimes you just wonder. Right?
Yes, you do.
Sometimes you just.
Yeah, well, the inside was worse than the outside in that house, but
It was a mess.
Okay, so there's been a lot of questions from clients about HVACs, like heat pumps versus a gas furnace, age of life. Give me some guidance out there for the residents out there that don't know the difference between a heat pump and just like a gas furnace.
I prefer, if you have a choice, if you got natural gas, and of course everybody has electricity, but if you have natural gas available, I like a dual fuel system.
We just got one of those a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they're wonderful. An electric heat pump is more efficient at heating and cooling, especially heating down to about 34 degrees or so. Below that temperature, a gas furnace is more efficient. Well, a dual fuel system, you don't have to hit a button or a switch. You don't have to pay attention. It takes care of itself. If it's above 34, it's a heat pump. Below 34, it's a gas furnace. And it's the best of both worlds. They're not that much higher than the standard units. There are some higher, but it's just the way to go if you have that opportunity, if you have that choice.
yeah, the difference is electric heat pump. It's going to put out about 85, 88 degree air. And it's engineered to be 15 to 18 degrees more than the air going in. So if 70-degree air is going in, it's going to kick out 85, 88-degree air typically. A gas furnace is going to be 120 plus all the time.
Wow.
So when people say it's better heat, it's moisture heat.
Feels better.
It feels better because it's 30 to 40 degrees warmer.
Yeah.
That's why it feels better.
I've always had gas, so and it amazes me that some people don't want a gas furnace.
I'm stunned at how many people are scared of gas.
Yes, I've
There's
had
lots of people out
multiple
there.
of that. I think there's that the unknown. It's just education and explaining things that people think that their house is going to blow up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And myself, I was scared of gas before I started doing this. No particular reason, but I just like you said, I thought, well, something can happen.
So tell me, for people out there listening, an HVAC average life of an electric furnace or a gas furnace?
Around 20 years.
20 years for an HVAC. So when we're looking at a seller's disclosure, when someone's buying it, and also when someone's selling it, if it says 15, average, it's almost at the end, but you still probably have 5 years.
Yeah. And I've seen gas furnaces run 40, 45 years.
I have too.
That isn't the norm, but I've seen that happen. Then again, I've seen gas furnaces go out in 5 years.
That's right. It's
So
just the luck of the draw.
we
How
just
you take care of them.
At about 20 years, we're going to say your unit is aged and at about the end of its life expectancy. In other words, be prepared.
So is it different for an electric furnace?
Yes. Heat pumps, which are electric, about 20 years for their units too, but you'll never see a 40-year-old heat pump. And I'm tempted to think that in the future we'll come back up a little bit on that life expectancy, and it'll be more like 15 years or less.
Okay.
Which is ridiculous.
What about a water heater? What's the average life? Gas and electric?
We usually say 16 to 20. There's a really wide range on water heaters. We used to say 20 on those, but I think we've kind of backed that up a little bit more to like 16 to 20. And I know that's a 4-year, that's a big range, but they're just all over the map as far as life expectancy goes.
Okay, so that educated me because I always tell people about 12 years.
Well, there is some things online I have seen that is 12, but I feel like that's just not long enough.
It depends on where you are too. The water
That's right.
can make all the difference.
We have hard water here, like a lot of mineral in it. Roofs, we're seeing roofs now 30 years, ever since 2007. Do you agree with that? Most of them?
It's a 30-year warranty is what they says. It's really a matter of how steep the roof is. The steeper, the better, because water and snow doesn't stay on it very long. So if it's a 30-year warranty shingle on a really steep pitch, you'll get close to 30 years probably on that. But if it's on a narrower or a shallower pitch, you might not get much more than 22, 24. So the pitch matters when it comes to shingles.
You'll seldom get 30 years out of any shingle.
Well, I'll tell you what, my roof is like straight up. We have an old Victorian.
Yeah.
It's like a peak. Looks
Right.
like a Mount Everest.
Yeah, it'll last a long time because water and snow won't stay on it very long.
Okay, so I've also noticed that you are also very available after the fact. So when they come for the home inspection, if they don't follow you, we always meet you. I never come to the actual inspection to the very end. I know some agents don't even do that. I just feel as part of my client experience, we want to be there to help them understand and also to educate ourselves. And you explain your pictures, you go through where different things are in the house, then you probably take 24 to 48 hours to actually issue the report through an email, electronic version. But I find you're always available after that because there's always questions, right? It kind of processes it's so much information at once. And you come back and do re-inspections sometimes.
We're not going to take your money and run. If you have an issue with something we've seen, or maybe just a question, we're always going to make ourselves available in some way. Of course, we're very, very busy, but we'll make ourselves available. We'll get back with you if we don't have to come to the house. We'll answer your questions on the phone at any time. But we wind up occasionally having to go back. I had a lady here in Lexington a few weeks ago called me and said, "You couldn't have checked my faucet on my kitchen sink. No water will come out." And I happened to be doing another inspection here in town that day, and I said, "I'll be over there in about an hour." And I got there, and she and her grown son were flipping the lever, saying, "See, it won't come out." And I took the lever and pulled it sideways, and it poured out. So, yeah, we try to make ourselves available, and usually it's, I won't say it's always something simple or stupid like that, but we're builders, and we know how to put things together, and we'll answer your questions and see if we can help you out any way we can.
So what areas do you cover in Kentucky? Because with a real estate license, I presume it's the same with the home inspector. You can go anywhere in the state, correct?
Correct.
So what are your typical areas for those out there listening and needing somebody?
Probably an hour and a half.
Of Danville, Lexington?
Danville and Lexington. I mean, it just depends on what it is.
Mm-hmm. I was up the Moorhead area yesterday.
Yeah, I'll go. I'm probably about the same. I'll go hour and a half out. And after that, I usually refer to somebody.
I think the furthest I went was Ashland. That was for a friend. That's starting to reach the limit there.
Yeah, that's pretty stretch. I actually did an inspection down in Pike County. That was years ago. I'll never drive that again. But that was a long way.
So I hate to bring this one up. Look, a lot of times clients will say, "Oh, that home inspector missed that. It's his fault." Tell me, how do I get around that one?
It's always
our fault. How do I explain
that?
It's always your fault. Well, it's always my fault too. So,
everybody that comes into a house and, why didn't your home inspector find this?
Right.
We're going to be in your house, like we said, 2 to 3 hours on an average size house. Yes, we try to find everything. We literally try to find everything. And most of the time we do find all the major issues. We're not perfect.
But you're reporting on the condition of the home at the time of the inspection. So I really want to make that clear for everybody out there. It's not your job to have the crystal magic ball, but it is your job to report on the condition of the home as of that day. And I have seen conditions on that day. That's why we do a final walkthrough, where from the time we do the home inspection, there's maybe two weeks to a month after that until we close. Anything can happen. I always tell the homeowners, if you have an old furnace, pray to God it doesn't break down until the closing.
Sure,
if you're a buyer, pray to God it breaks down before the closing.
Yeah, one of the reasons we take lots of pictures in our reports, but one reason we photograph the kitchen is we tell you the brand name of all your appliances. Mm-hmm. And it's never happened to Randy and I, but it's happened to friends of mine in the business. People are buying this house with this nice double wide refrigerator that's 1 year old, and they move in and there's a 12-year-old worn out piece of junk sitting there, and you go back to those pictures and say, here it is. Here's what you bought.
That's right. It becomes a resource manual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did one inspection down Harrisburg a while back. Did it when it was like 43 degrees, so we couldn't test the air conditioner, and they had one of the nice Nest thermostats on there. I took that picture. Usually do the smart thermostats. Well, they called me 3 or 4 months later trying to get their air on and said, my air's not working. I know you really didn't test it because it's too cold, but it's not working. So I said, okay, well, I'll come over and check it out. So I went over there, and I just happened to, I looked at my report before I went, and I had a picture of that Nest thermostat. So when I go in there, I looked at the thermostat, and they'd taken that Nest thermostat, because it's about a $200 thermostat, and put the original old one in, and they didn't wire it properly when they put it back in. So that's why their air wasn't working. But I'm glad I had that picture so I can show them, here's the thing you had when you bought the house, and they changed it out. So that was an interesting one there.
So what do you guys do after this? I mean, who are you going to hand this down to?
Well, my son does some of our radon now.
Oh, great.
I don't know.
Family business.
He's in the medical field right now, so he's not a doctor or anything, but he's in the field. It's a possibility. Who knows? Who knows where this business is going? There's going, more testing's probably coming down the line. Radon right now is probably as popular as home inspections was when it started.
Tell us a little bit about the radon, because there's always that controversy as well of, people People have quoted other states where it's not a big deal, but here in Lexington, it's a big deal. We have caves and that limestone. So educate some of the viewership out there.
Well, radon gas comes from the ground. It's odorless, tasteless. It's the second leading cause of lung cancer, way, way, way behind smoking. And we have a tester. It's a monitor. It sets out for 48 hours and continuously reads the air for 48 hours. We send it in electronically, and it gives us a readout. It's measured in picolaries per liter. And 4.0 is the standard. If it's above 4.0, it's may need to be mitigated. If it's below, it's fine. But basically, it is gas that comes out of the ground. For the most part, poured basements with poured basement walls is probably going to be pretty good. If you have a crawl space with open dirt, ledges, especially no vapor barrier, you're much more likely to have an issue.
But it's something that can be controlled.
Yes,
right?
It can be mitigated.
I think a lot of
there's radon gas out in this parking lot.
right.
It's a radioactive gas. According to the scientists, it's the second leading cause of lung cancer. And I pretty well believe that now. I was pretty iffy about it for years, but I've been around enough of this stuff now that if you got high radon reading, you need to get it mitigated. It isn't going to kill you overnight. You can live in it for a year or so, or 3 or more, but you need to get it mitigated. You don't need to live in a high radon environment for years.
Well, and in my neighborhood, my neighbor, when we put the house on the market, they had a radon test by the buyer, and it was 38.
Ooh.
So I immediately had one done because I have a pit basement, which means I have no exterior entrance.
Right.
In my basement, you have to come in through the kitchen and out through the kitchen. And I was terrified because I thought, wow, shame on me. I'm a real estate agent. I've never had my house radon checked. But mine was 2. So we were extremely lucky. So your neighbor could have radon, but you couldn't. And I always highly encourage people to get a radon test. It's only, $100, $200 to get that done. And it's well worth it for peace of mind. But I've also seen my highest that I've seen so far in my real estate lifetime is 87.
That's really high.
It was really high. I almost I had a little bit of a heart tremor there.
Pennsylvania is one of the states that has the highest radon readings, and it's common for them to get readings in the 200 range.
Okay, so that makes me feel better. But it got taken care of. A radon system was put in. We used Absolute Radon. Dave is great. He's really great manner with clients. And within, just a couple of days, the radon was down to, 1.8.
Yeah.
That's great.
So it can be taken care of. I just want to get some reaffirmation with that because a lot of people ask about that and get really terrified about it.
No, it can be taken care of, especially in crawl spaces that's got good access. They can take care of that very easy. Basements are a little harder because they have to drill the floor. Sometimes they have to drill it in more than one spot, so it's a little more expensive, but it can be done.
Right.
We've had high readings even in houses that are built on a slab.
So even getting it tested on a slab should be done.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Good to know. We'll add that one to the list out there as well. Well, we really appreciate you guys. I'm super excited to have, a board member of the Home Inspector Board here.
Well, thank you so much.
Very encouraging. And I always appreciate you guys, your knowledge, your friendship, all the information that you provide our clients. How do people reach out to you? How do they find you? Tell us.
Well, you can call us by phone. You can look us up on the internet. Randy, what's our
website? Is Chandler Home Inspections -Kentucky.com. And then I have all the information about us and how you can reach us.
What about phone number? What's the best phone number?
859-319-8119.
Okay, so that's 859-319-8119, folks. And as always, you can call us at our office at 859-490-1101. We're happy to refer your name and number. We also will have this podcast out, a great article coming up too, you guys, just to give some tips and knowledge to all the clients. But I always appreciate having that conversation. Thanks for coming to this
Thank you.
bourbon
Thank you very
table
much.
Thank you, Malia.
and collaborating with us and offering your knowledge to everybody. So remember, everybody, when you're ready to buy, sell, build, or invest, I'm your girl. Just ask Malia. Well, that wraps up another great podcast. Thank you so much for joining us at the Just Ask Malia podcast series. It's always a pleasure to help the local and future residents of Kentucky make smart real estate decisions. And we love connecting you to our community. And that's why we do this. So be sure to subscribe to our podcast series. Make sure your friends and family know all about it. Tag, like us, find us on Facebook, social media. And remember, when you're ready to buy, sell, build, or invest, I'm your girl, Just Ask Malia.